Okay, everyone, we're going to go ahead and get started. Very quickly, just my apologies. My asthma is getting a little bit the better of me today. So I'm sorry if my voice is a little lower. Just bear with me, please, and appreciate your patience. But otherwise, we're going to jump right into things. First and foremost, I did just upload a copy of the agenda. So if anybody wants to follow along, you'll be able to view that there. Otherwise, of course, we'll just go through all of the items. I will say for the first item here, treasurer's report would normally be our next step. Our treasurer, Dan, is not here with us this evening. So Dan will report this past month and the current month at next month's meeting. And we'll, of course, be able to answer any questions related to that. Otherwise, we'll just move right along. So we're going to give a recap of our chili cook-off this past weekend, which raises is an annual event we have to raise money for our Southside Scholarship. We were, of course, partnering with South Central Commons again this year, and we were hosted by the Hey Hey in their back room. So, Lauren, are you here?
Yep, I'm
Okay.
here.
How was
So
your
yeah, the cookout went really well. I think we made around $800. And then we also received a generous donation of $500 from Southside Stay, which was fantastic. And Stacy McWhirter from um South Village Commons, South whatever there. She and her husband won for the chili cook-off. We had, I think, what, two meat or two veggie options and five or six
five?
meat.
Yep.
So yeah, we had a decent turnout and we're pretty excited.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And we also had a lot of amazing donors who helped with donations for our raffle. We've got all of those donors listed, calling them out on some of our recent social media posts. So big thanks to all those donors who donated for this event and lots of other events during the year. That always helps us to raise additional funds. So thank you so much. Okay, excuse me. We're going to move on and talk about Founders Day. So, our 40th anniversary celebration with Founders Day is going to be Sunday, April 27th, and that's going to be from 12 p.m. to 4 p.m. at the Century again. So, that's the event space that is located just at the corner of East Moeller and South 4th Street. We are also working on a partial road closure for that event, which will allow us to close a portion of South 4th Street, where we'll, of course, be hosting food trucks and hopefully some outside vendors as well. So, very excited about that event. We'll have indoor vendors like we did last year. The MBA will, of course, be there, and something we will have available. Give me one moment here, and I will share my screen for this. This year, instead of having a logo competition for right before the festival, as we have for the last several years, we actually have a 40th anniversary logo to share. Um, so let me see here. Let me just get that going. There we go. So this is our 40th anniversary logo. This is a mock-up from the neighbor and artist who prepared this logo for us. That is Kevin, who lives here in Merion Village, and look out for any of our posts tagging Kevin and thanking him for his logo. But this will be available for apparel as we have for the last several years, and of course on our festival mugs. And we're looking at some other options for different things that could potentially host the logo as well. So stay tuned for that. But those items will be, at least some of those items will be available at Founders Day. And then, of course, we'll have pre-sale options and we'll also have them available at the festival. So we're really looking forward to that and hope that everybody really enjoys this year's special 40th anniversary logo. Vendor applications are currently open for Founders Day. We are still kind of waiting for the city to give final approval on our road closure. And once they've done that, we'll be able to approve outdoor vendors. But I'm going to post a link here. If you know someone who is a small business that, sells goods or is a maker located here on the South Side, we would love to have them apply for Founders Day and join us to have another great event. Okay. All right. So sorry, everyone. Committee updates. We won't have any committee updates this evening. There's no items on the docket for zoning and no
Jessica,
updates. I'm sorry.
Jessica, it's Tracy.
Hi, Tracy.
Can you hear me?
Yep, we
I
can
was
hear
having
you.
a hard time. I was having a hard time hearing you till I put earplugs in. I want to go back to the Founders Day thing because you and I have been talking back and forth today.
Hmm.
And how many trucks are going to be there, and how many people have actually been able to give you a food permit?
So we'll take 2 to 3 trucks depending on the applications we get. We have a permit from one of our applicants so far, and then I know that you're working through yours.
2025 permit, a 20, okay. I'm a little hyped up, so you're gonna have to excuse me, everybody, all four people that are on here. Um, I'm a little hyped up because permit process just started. The food inspector just told me they are processing. Are you there? Oh, there.
Yeah,
Watching.
we're here.
They are processing 3,000 food permits right now. So it's a slow process. So my question to you is, when does your paperwork have to be into the city?
The city will not finalize our permit for the street until we provide these to them. We've been asking them for a few weeks to kind of have a little bit more time, but essentially they will not finalize anything for us until that happens, and we need to have everything finalized here in the next couple of weeks in order to be prepared for the event. Now, the city did
Okay,
not
now
say that there's
you're
any.
skipping the question, Jessica. Stop it.
I'm sorry,
Um,
Tracy,
why does everything have to be?
Tracy.
I mean,
I'm gonna pause you for a moment, Tracy. If there's no need to be hostile, I'm giving you an answer. The city has told
okay.
us that this information needs to be provided. We don't have that requirement
I
ourselves.
know
That's the
that. I
city.
know, my dear. If anybody knows more as much about food permits in the city than I do, step forward. Yes, I know that has to be provided, and it has to be provided X number of days before your festival date. Your festival date is on April 28th, if I think I'm right.
The
27th, 28th,
27th.
whatever that Sunday is. How many days ahead of time does that permit have to be in your hand? You can plan
We were
without a
told 60
permit,
days. We were told
60
60
days.
days, but we advised
So
them that that would not be
you tell
possible.
me, okay, you ask the city, okay, March 1st, that's 30. So if no one has their permit in their hand by March 1st, which permits just expired, and like I said, they're inspecting 3,000 locations and food vendors in the city, and it takes a minute. And it's not gonna be until the second or third week of March. And you cannot send, you told me, oh, just take a picture of the old one that's expired. The city will reject that in about 30 seconds. They're gonna send back to you, take it back to Jessica and go, Jessica, your food vendor's not eligible because
Okay,
the permit's not
Tracy,
correct.
just to clarify, what I explained to you was if the new permit is not yet granted, my suggestion was to upload last year's so that I could provide that to the city with a notation that your new pending permit is pending their process. But that would give us something to show that you were a previously licensed food truck, and hopefully, and I can't say for sure, I'm not the city, hopefully that will allow us to continue the process. This, unfortunately, we don't make these rules, unfortunately.
I know that, but I'm just saying, you're trying to push an application. I'm gonna send you the old one, and then if it gets
Okay.
rejected, if there's a problem, I'm gonna come back and say I told you so. But
And
your
that's
application,
perfectly
but your but your
understandable.
but your automatic application, which I'm so happy you guys are up on everything and can do things on the internet and all that. But to tell me I have 14 days and the clock's ticking, 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 it makes me feel like, oh, okay, well, we don't want you as a vendor. It's like my neighborhood, my backyard, and I'm going to be there, and I'm going to get my food permit license to you. But it's just the pressure of saying, oh, you've only got 2 days left. Your 14 days are up. So this is going to automatically kick me out of the system.
Your application would be rescinded until, Tracy, this is a rule we have for everyone. We get dozens and dozens and dozens of applications every year. If we didn't have a timeline that applies to everyone, we wouldn't be able to do our festival or our Founders Day. This is not personal. This is just our process. And we give everyone 14 days after we've approved an application to provide those items that are being required by the city. This is
Well,
just.
Yeah, Tracy, this
14
is Mike
days.
Mikuch. I did the permit for the festival. I do it every year, and
Yep.
they've made life extremely hard for us. And we had the same issue last year with the vendors and
Festivals
the food
easy because
vendors.
that's not okay, Michael. It's not you. It's more so the city of Columbus than anybody because the festival is in August. By end of March, 90% of the people have their license. By the end of April, probably almost everybody has their license. But they're doing 3,000 people right now. By March 3rd, everybody can't have their license. March 4th, March 5th. It's going to be a while before everybody has a license. So I'm going to send this 20 expired copy to you because it's legal. because the check has been cashed, has been to the bank with the city, so it's technically legal. Um, but that city worker probably won't know the difference, and they're probably going to send back to you guys going, "Look, it's fired." And it's just a headache. It's the city instead of the city expecting trucks on food vendors on a rolling basis. Like, hey, let's do some of them this 6 months, and let's do this next 6 months. They decided let's take it all on and do 3,000 at one time, which is crazy. So that's my. Uh, I'm sorry, I'm so hyped up. It's been one of those days, and then when this all comes back, we don't want to miss comporting and miss the event because 14 days I get kicked, my application gets kicked back, and someone else gets picked. Which if it happens, it happens. But I'm doing the best on my end to get everything organized, and the city to get here. The city
And
just
that's my
dragged.
hope too. I mean, the city is quite literally the holdup for the permits. So I hope that by showing them, look, this is a food truck that you previously have licensed, who is pending a permit. I'm just hoping by me giving them that information, that will be enough for them to understand, oh, this ball is in our court. We can't expect them to have a license until we've actually approved it, but to at least show the history, the fact that you are an established
Okay, well,
food truck and go
I'll
from there.
download. I'll download the old one, and we'll see what happens. Hopefully, it goes through.
That's perfect. Thank you.
I
Okay.
lost my picture.
Anybody else have any thoughts or questions on Founders Day before we move on? Okay, all right, I'm going to move on here to the next item. So committees. So we don't have any committee updates for you this evening. Again, no zoning items to discuss. We do actually, David, I'll touch with you in just a second before I get away from this area. Membership reminder, if you've not yet renewed your membership, that is a reminder to go get that renewed or reestablished if it has lapsed. And then of course with beautification, if you're interested in taking on any beautification projects, just let us know. We'd love to help support you in that. And it's almost spring, so hopefully it's almost spring. So perfect time for some beautification projects. David, may I ask you quickly, has a location been picked for the next social?
No, but that will happen soon. And as we do happy hours on the first Thursday of the month, the next one's in April, so we can announce that at the April meeting the day before it happens, and also I'm sure we'll put it on social media. But we'll have that soon. I was talking to Jeremy about it, and we're thinking red brick, since hopefully the weather will be nice in early April and we can use their patio. But so we're probably going to do that, but I need to confirm with him. But we did have a really great happy hour in February when we kind of rebooted this at Rumors, so we're glad that they could accommodate us. And then, of course, this year or this month, we're not doing one since we just had the chili cook-off. But every other month, more or less, this year, and we'll be looking forward to doing those.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And we will look forward to that. So yes, we'll get that announced, folks, on Facebook and Instagram as soon as a location is picked. And then as David mentioned, our next monthly meeting will of course be the day before the happy hour. So we'll remind you that day. Okay. All right, let me actually, I'm going to quickly just post a link circling back. So the scholarship that we mentioned earlier that of course we're raising funds for, the scholarship application is still open. We are still taking applications through April 6th. So if you know of any students who are graduating this year who currently attend South High School and live anywhere on the South Side, we invite them to apply for that scholarship. It is at least $1,000 toward an accredited college or trade program. So any of those programs would apply, and we would love to see those applications. So link is in the chat, and please share that far and wide so we can get a lovely variety of applicants.
Jessica,
All right.
Amy.
I'm sorry.
I have a question going back. I know there's not a treasure report tonight. Um, do you know? Did you have a treasury balance from previous month or so?
I don't have that handy. That would be again, that would be something Dan would have, and unfortunately, he was not able to make it tonight. So I
You,
don't
so you have
think
no
I have.
notes from prior meetings.
Not handy, not on me. I don't have that. We have some information on the website. I'll need to check to see if the treasurer reports are posted to the website. That's just not
Okay.
something that I have in my hand at this moment.
We have a summary of we have the minutes from the January meeting on the website, which I believe includes a summary of the January Treasury report,
Okay,
the
cool.
Treasury report. And I don't have the meetings for the February meeting up yet, but once those are up, there will also be a summary of the report there, although not the full treasurer's report, which Dan takes care of.
I was just curious, balances and stuff because I haven't been around for a while, just wondering what they're building up or not building up.
Yep. So I will double check with Dan to ask him if the actual treasurer reports themselves are posted. But like David mentioned, we do have all of the minutes currently on the site. So, excuse me. So that should give a balance from last month's meeting. Okay. All right. Let's see here. Let me pull back to our agenda just a moment. All right, Southside Commission area updates. So we don't have anything currently from the area commission that has been passed along to us. We don't have any commissioners here present at tonight's meeting, so we do not have them to share those updates. But of course, if anything does get passed along, we will share that. Has anyone possibly recently attended a Southside Area Commission meeting or have anything to share from those? Just checking before we move on.
So actually, I am a Southside Area Commissioner. I am the resident at large commissioner, but I don't have any updates to share.
I think you're mute, Jess.
Sorry about that, folks. I was coughing and forgot to unmute. Well, thank you again for that, Justin. If you ever have updates to share, please always feel free to join us and pass those along to folks. Okay, moving on here. So I'm going to go through the list of the upcoming community events that we have, not just us, of course, but things around the area. So the next Southside Area Commission meeting is Tuesday, March 18th. It starts at 6:30 p.m. and they host those. This says Barrack Recreation Center, but I believe you're at the library. Is that right now, Justin?
So
So
normally,
for the month, for this month, we'll be at Barrick. The room was not available at the library this month.
yeah, when I put together the upcoming events, I checked their website and they mentioned that this month it was at the
Interesting.
recreation
Okay.
center. Yeah.
Wonderful.
And
Thank you for that.
previously we did meet the fourth Tuesday, and that has been moved up to the third Tuesday going forward.
Okay. Good to know. Thank you so much. All right. We have an event coming up. So our new member at large, Brittany, who unfortunately could not be here this evening, spearheaded a fun event that we are having later this month. So on Wednesday, March 26th, this will start at 5 p.m. at Jennings Java, again at the corner of East Moeller and South Fourth. We're having a South Side small business mixer. So if you're a business owner, either just your business is on the South Side or you live on the South Side or both, we're just inviting folks to come out. There will be some kind of structured conversation at the beginning. It's just a way to connect local business owners, let everyone kind of network, talk about thoughts, ways of, improving our area and just getting to know each other. So there will be some light snacks and drinks provided. Jennings Java is our wonderful host, and they'll be providing a bit of coffee for the evening. And they'll, of course, have their shop open as well if you'd like a stronger coffee drink. And then, of course, we'll have a few snacks and beverages. So we hope everybody can attend. You can pre-register on our website. It's not required, but we just ask that if you're planning to attend, that you just let us know you're coming so we can make sure we're prepared for everyone. And then we'll spend the first half hour of the event just kind of signing folks in, welcoming people, putting on little name tags. And yeah, we're really looking forward to it. So excited to see how this goes and get lots of folks together at Jennings. All right, next item is, of course, our next monthly meeting, which will be Wednesday, April 2nd. Again, we start at 7 p.m. And then, of course, we have the next happy hour, which will be Thursday, April 3rd. Those start at 5:30 p.m. and the location is to be determined. Founders Day will be Sunday, April 27th from 12 p.m. to 4 p.m. We plan to be both inside the Century like we were last year, and then hopefully in the road closure portion on South 4th. So that road closure, if it is approved, will be between Moeller and Freebus. So just a small space to host our food trucks and a few outside vendors and just kind of make the event more visible to folks so that everyone can see that something is going on. Our spring yard sale, which is our first yard sale of the year, is going to be Saturday, May 3rd. The yard sale itself will be from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. If you're a member of the association, you're able to register your Merion Village home or business for the yard sale map for free on our website. If you are not a member, the fee for registration is just $5. We'll start the registration is actually open now. Let me go ahead and just quickly post that into chat for anyone that is looking for it. And again, you can get registered. Homes or businesses, as long as they are located within Merion Village, are eligible to be part of our map. So always a really good time. We are hoping to once again do a Goodwill donation drive immediately following the yard sale at our info center. We've not yet heard back from Goodwill, unfortunately, so they may not have availability, but we do hope that they will. And that will allow us to collect just basic donations of clothing, housewares, and e-waste at the info center so that folks who might have had a sale that day can easily come and make donations. And even if they didn't have a sale and they just want to do some spring cleaning, it's an easy way to drop donations off in your own neighborhood. Goodwill will not be present at the event, even if once they've confirmed, hopefully. So we won't be able to issue any type of donation receipts, but hopefully if you have items to get rid of, you will still bring them down. All right, the next item is Fitness in the Park. So that will be back again for, I believe, oh goodness, I think this will be the 5th year since we started in 2020. So Fitness in the Park on Saturdays at 9 a.m. We have a variety of yoga or sometimes HIIT classes that are hosted by wonderful volunteers who are just phenomenal instructors. We do ask that you make a donation directly to the volunteer at those classes if you choose to attend. Again, we hold them in Moeller Park, and in the case of inclement weather, we do try to move those either into the info center or other locations if the info center is not available. But we're very excited about that. The instructor area is open. So if you or someone you know is a yoga or fitness instructor and would like to host a class, you can just sign up on the website. And we have lots of class dates available. I think there are a total of, oh gosh. So this runs throughout the entire, it begins at May 3rd and runs all the way through September. So I believe there's a total of 21 class dates this year. So lots of dates to claim. And I think thus far we've already had 7 or 8 of those claimed from some instructors. So really looking forward to that. And can't wait to see it back again this year. This has become a fan favorite for our events. So really happy we can do that again. Sorry about that. All right, so typically what we do, since we didn't have any zoning items, this is of course a much shorter agenda. And I do see a note here someone posted in chat. If Goodwill falls through for the neighborhood sale, isn't there a free store on Parsons? So there is. We've actually communicated with them in the past. And no, please never apologize for suggestions and ideas. I really appreciate it, Holly. We have talked to them in the past. A lot of times the donations, I'm not sure if you've ever seen the very large Goodwill bins that are typically about, oh gosh, 5 feet wide by maybe 2 or 3 feet deep. We normally fill about 15 of those when we do these drives. And so we've not been able to find a local group that's able to take such a massive volume of donations at these events. Obviously, if that changes, we'd always be happy to work with someone local. But when we have reached out to them in the past, they've certainly asked to partner with us on maybe small, really specific drives, like maybe for canned food, or sometimes there are drives for school supplies or things of that nature. But the kind of general donations is typically a bit more than the smaller groups are able to handle because so many items are donated. But that is a phenomenal question and suggestion. So thank you again for that. Okay, let's see here. Let me scroll down here. All right, so what we would typically do now is we'll open the floor if anybody just wants to introduce themselves, say hello, share a community interest, bring up a question, concern, anything. Before we do that, I do see another item here in chat. Just want to go back to that and circle. Abby, you've lived on Gates for 12 years. You've been to meetings in the past and you've been a member, but you're interested in getting more involved. And it is okay that the camera on your computer doesn't work, Abby. We're just happy that you're here. So love for you to get more involved. We have tons of opportunities. There's always plenty to do. We're actually going to be launching the garden tour planning committee here very soon, festival planning committee. As I mentioned, beautification projects are an option. We of course have Founders Day coming up. Or if you're just, looking for just kind of a way to dip your toe back in, just joining us for meetings is always awesome as well. We love to hear from folks, hear new ideas and thoughts. So if you'd like to say anything, please feel free to do so. But otherwise, you can also just reach out to us by email if that's easier for you and you kind of want to chat that way. You can email all of us at once at mvaboard@merionvillage.org. I'll put that in the chat just to make it easier, but that'll email all 5 board members at once if you just kind of want to talk to us or figure out how you might want to get more involved.
Well, thanks. I hope it's okay I joined. I realize you have a lot of
Please.
specific business, but
Oh, no.
yeah, so thank you. I've been meaning to do this and then I just have procrastinated for a very long time. So thank you. And I could possibly help with Founders Day.
Yes, that
So
would be wonderful. Anytime you join is the right time. There's never a
okay,
wrong time to join one of the meetings. The more the merrier always.
thank you.
All right. So, like I said, opening the floor. So, if anybody has anything they'd like to bring up, if you just want to introduce yourself, say hello, please feel free.
Yeah, I wanted to start kind of a discussion here. Mike Pykuch, for those of you that don't know me. Um, been part of the organization now for, I don't know, it's like 7, 8 years, something like
Long
that.
time.
And I do a lot of stuff with the festival. I used to do some of the social happy hour stuff. I've handed that over. Um, One thing I wanted to bring up, we've been doing these meetings virtually since COVID basically forced us to. And I do feel like, ironically, tonight's pretty good attendance for these meetings, but we've had quite a slew of them where I think attendance has been lower. And I think, sometimes people that aren't into going to happy hours or can't make those kind of things aren't getting the person to person impact that we used to get. So I did want to raise a motion to potentially move some of these meetings maybe once a quarter back to the info center. We do have a really nice space that a lot of people put some time in fixing up a couple years ago, myself included, selfishly. So I'd like, to use it occasionally. With that being said, I don't think we need to have a hard, fast rule that we can't do some sort of hybrid solution. I've been messaging with Jess. We were chatting today, and I work in IT, so I'm hopeful maybe we can come up with a solution that might work for everyone. But I would like to, put that out there to maybe start with once a quarter. We have a meeting that's in person, allows people to get to know each other a little more, have some of that face-to-face contact, but not get rid of the virtual meetings altogether, because I do think it opens up for other groups of people that might not be able to join as well. So um, maybe best of both worlds kind of thing. So, does anyone have any comments on that or suggestions?
Mike, I kind of think that's a great idea. When I was more involved, that was the whole socialization of Merion Village, and that was the whole idea of putting the group together to get together as a neighborhood and socialize, bring up ideas, have a meeting, go to the corner bar to have a drink, hang out afterwards, do things. COVID got away from that. I think the COVID thing is not a factor anymore. Of getting a small group of 20 people we used to have at the meetings. Um, we're sitting here paying for a center that's not being used other than a storage unit. You can go get an 8x10 much cheaper than $500 or $600 a month or whatever it is now. That's why I wanted to know about the treasury balance. Um, you can have all the festivals and raise all the money and have all the chili cook-offs you want, but if it's just sitting there piling up, it's not a good thing. I have a food truck association that has the same problem. They went to virtual meetings. They actually did go back to quarterly meetings um, for different things. We just had one with the fire inspector. But they're sitting on a treasury of $20,000, $30,000 that isn't doing anything. And like to take a membership dues, but don't do anything with them. Um, I think it's a great idea. I totally, unfortunately, I haven't paid my dues right now. I'm not a voting member, but I'll get on that tomorrow. But I mean, I think people would be more for that because I talked to a couple neighbors and some other people who used to be a little more active, and they pulled away because of the virtual meetings. They don't want to deal with virtual meetings. Um, I'm old school, as you can tell, and I look like grandpa, but I'd rather be socializing than sitting here on the computer trying to figure out how do I turn on my camera? How do I turn on my thing? Why can't no one hear me? And I got to put ear pads in because my computer's not right. And it's it's just nicer to be able to talk to people and be around people.
Yeah, I agree. And my wife and I moved to this neighborhood, and we didn't actually know anyone when we moved here, and that was one of the vehicles that we've made a lot of friends, not only on our street but just around the whole
Yeah.
neighborhood. So, um,
Yeah, it used to be someone walk in a meeting you didn't recognize and be like, "Oh, hi, how are you? What's your name? Are you just moved in, or you're new, or first time here?" So it was very friendly and very social. Um, Virtual meetings, a lot of people use them to just sit around doing all day from work, and it gets tiring, and so it's nice to actually go see somebody. And I know the comments are going to be, "Well, that's why we have once a month social gathering." That's not the same. Like you said, there's a lot of people who don't want to go to a bar, who don't want to drink, who will come to a meeting because they know it's a social thing too. So that's why I think quarterly would be a great way to start, and then maybe every other month. Or why couldn't also my question is, why couldn't the virtual meeting? Why can't people have someone run the computer and do virtual meeting and live meeting at the same time? Those who want to be there on virtual listen and hear, and then they can bring questions up and they can be read out loud or be told to the group, and everybody can be involved both virtually and in person.
yeah, I right now I know we don't have the technology in there, but I do volunteer. I'll just say it here that I will volunteer to help try to set that up best we can. So I think the future would be nice to have that hybrid solution at least. That way, if someone isn't feeling well but they want to attend the meeting, they can do it
Yeah.
virtually, or they don't want to get out of the house. That's their prerogative.
Yeah.
Or if they're
So
medically injured or something, or
exactly. And I've worked from home for over 10 years now, so I'm very well aware of the pros and the cons of the virtual meetings and all that. So um, I think it's a good thing going forward to maybe have both as well. So Jess, I don't know, the process for this. Is this something that we would have to vote on as a group in like
Yes,
next meeting or in a future meeting?
since this is kind of a bigger discussion that I know we had this obviously about a year and a half after we went virtual, what we would do is we would gather kind of the comments from tonight and whatever the proposal is. So we would need to decide what it is we're proposing. Are we proposing hybrid? Are we proposing, only in person and not hybrid? Once we kind of figure out here what that proposal is, we will basically include that in the membership email that goes out a week before the next meeting and the day before to kind of let folks know, hey, this is on the table and we will be voting on this at the actual excuse me, April meeting. In order to vote, you'll need to be present, of course, at the actual meeting. But we would at least give people a heads up that that's going to be on the table. So we essentially just need to kind of outline the framework of exactly what it is that is being proposed. And we do actually have sorry, we do have Wi-Fi now at the info center. Admittedly, I don't know what the level of speed would be as far as like video conferencing, but it's something we could at least test to see how it works. As you mentioned, like we don't have any of the other equipment. We don't have a computer, a webcam, any kind of speaker system, or like a projector to use in that space. But we do have Wi-Fi, so that is at least one item that is in place if we needed to have that virtual connection.
If anyone else would like to comment or have any suggestions on what our actual proposal here should be, I'm happy to hear.
And I just want to share this is from a personal level. This is just for transparency so that nobody is surprised by this if it happens. If we go to a setting that does require in-person participation, I unfortunately will need to resign and will no longer be involved. There are certainly 4 other board members, and we have a vice president who would basically step into the role of president at that point. A new vice president would be elected, and then any of the committees and things that I'm serving on, other individuals would need to volunteer for those
Jessica,
things.
what would the reason be for that?
Personal, medical, but things that will not
Okay.
change. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Can I
So,
suggest, sorry, go ahead.
no, that was it. I just wanted to share that again. I don't want to surprise anyone, especially my fellow board members who would be absorbing my anywhere from 20 to 40 hours a week of MVA work. I don't want anyone to be surprised by that if that happens. So,
I was going to suggest if we want to have a proposal tonight, this wouldn't work. But if this is something we want to work on a proposal for like next month, which would then push off the voting until I guess May, The board, also has our monthly board meetings, and we have access to the info center, so we could potentially test the feasibility of doing something hybrid by at the next board meeting, for example, having a couple of us show up at the info center and a couple of us do it on Zoom, which would allow us to see, is the Wi-Fi strong enough to facilitate an audio connection, a video connection, or we could, do the call into Zoom feature so the audio wouldn't be reliant on the Wi-Fi, and sort of in a smaller group at least see if that works, so that we could at least give the membership, if they were to vote on a proposal, some data on how well we think that the hybrid function would work. And we
Well,
can talk
if the
about that
hybrid,
with
I think that's a
board
great
members
idea.
offline too before we have our next meeting, but I want to throw it out here.
if we were able to do both in person and um online at the same time, then Jessica, you wouldn't have to come to the meetings, I would think. I would think that would be a possible good solution that we could do
Absolutely.
both.
I wouldn't want to create a situation where we were trying to force hybrid if it didn't work for my sake, essentially. I wouldn't
Yeah.
want to be in a, like, if people prefer and desire an in-person setting, then you should have a president that can do that, essentially. But if hybrid is viable, I totally agree. I think in a lot of cases, even especially when we have folks that are like coming to us with zoning items and presentations, in a lot of ways it's probably easier for them to attend virtually. A lot of them are attending from like attorneys offices and things when we see them, and sometimes they have things to share on the screen. So in those situations it probably makes sense to have a hybrid, because then they can still share that with people who are both virtual and anyone who would be, at the info center. They would of course need it. We would need, like I said, a projector or something of that nature so folks could see. But it's mostly, I don't want to create a barrier because of myself if virtual is not really or hybrid is not really viable, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah, David, you make a good point. I don't want to force a vote on something that we don't have all the info. Um, yeah, I live right down the street, and Lauren's my wife, so she can get me in the info center. So, it's something I can also look at too, and maybe try to come up with some ideas. And I like your idea of maybe trying the board member meeting kind of as a dry run. So, maybe we go forward with that. I'm not going to like force people to vote and make a decision that might be the wrong one if we can't do a hybrid. So, I'll put this off till next month, and maybe we can have some better info, and you and I can work together, Lauren and I. So we'll go forward with that.
All right,
And
great.
Jess,
So what
let's
we'll do,
actually question. Let's just say it works really well with this hybrid. I
sure.
mean, we could potentially even have next month's meeting also hybrid as well. Let's say it works really well.
Yeah,
Um,
if we actually find it works, and again, if you've got like some ideas for maybe equipment and things, because obviously that's, I think, our biggest hurdle at this point. Assuming the Wi-Fi is stable enough, can help us do it. I think equipment is probably our next challenge. Space certainly isn't. We have a giant wall we can use as a projector. That's definitely not an issue. So if we can kind of solve those problems, then yes, I agree. We could
Load it,
actually
ready?
have someone
Ready?
at the info
No.
center
Let's
next
load
month
it.
to test. And then
Yeah, I
also, I
think.
just want to share. Oh, so go ahead.
Oh no, I think it's a great idea to test it and see how it goes first, because very important.
Okay, well, that it sounds like that'll be our plan then. We'll do some testing. We'll of course have this on our agenda at our next board meeting. And like you suggested, David, if maybe we test it there and we think it's got some viability for a hybrid situation, then yeah, Mike, maybe what we do is we do have someone there physically with some kind of equipment next month during our regular meeting, so we can actually get a feel for how that might work and see if it's something. Because I think that's actually a great point. Then people can really see, oh, okay, this works. Is this something we want to vote on? Um, okay, perfect. Then that will be our plan. And also, but quickly before we move away from that, you made a comment, Tracy, so I think that some other folks here might not know as well. Yes, the info center definitely is storage for all of our many, many things. But the info center actually is also available to both members and non-members to use as a community space. So we actually have 4 or 5 reservations this month alone
Cool.
for community meetings. In fact, the Southside Area Commission will be there one of the days this month for a meeting. And we typically see people having baby showers, wedding showers, parties for their children. It's, you name it, a space that can essentially hold up to about, for a meeting, I'd say up to 30 people comfortably, and for a party, 20, 25 people. So if you weren't aware of that, if you're a member, you actually can rent the space for free 6 times a year during your membership year. And if you're a non-member, the space is $15 per hour to rent, but it is available and we have a
Good
whole
enough.
reservation system. So wanted to make sure everybody knew that. Okay. All right, well, let me see here. Let me just move back to there. So Info Center, anyone else have any comments, questions, thoughts on the Info Center before we open the floor back up? Okay. All right, floor is open again. Does anybody have anything they'd like to share? Anyone like to introduce themselves, say hello, ask questions? The floor is open. Going once. Okay, seems like that might be it for the night then, folks. So we had a pretty speedy meeting, but really glad to see some new faces and some returning faces this evening, or names, even if not a face. Really appreciate everyone being here. And yeah, please plan to join us again next month. We don't have any events that will happen before our next meeting, but we certainly have events coming up. So stay connected, stay in touch, and we look forward to seeing everyone again next month. Thanks so much, folks. Have a great evening.
You.
Uh,